Hey guys, it's Frito here for your Overwatch, and to jump you right into playing Ramattra tomorrow, I wanted to give you a quick beginner's guide because his kit is quite complicated. His nanites are really hard to hit. So while it is a long-range weapon of his primary attack, and you can rack up a lot of headshot damage on stationary targets, look out for not expecting to be able to hit a tracer like this. And even though, in theory, he's going to be able to contest targets at range, because it's so hard to hit, you really can only pick out targets that are moving slowly. Like, even up against this Pharah, see how little damage I'm doing? I have to track it pretty good, and that was a whole reload, only getting her to half health, and it's going to be even worse if you're trying to do it with a pocket. So, while this attack, not going to be very good on anything that moves quickly in the game, in my opinion, so try to land it to farm up a tank's head, even though you're not going to expect to kill him, but you'll build your ult, which is quite important. And as well, I would say snipers out in the distance, or a Zenyatta. This hitbox, when there's moving slowly, you can see how you can kind of farm something that's just kind of peeking around a corner. So try to do that. Punish things that are peeking into the corner on you, and you can play the sniper battle that way. And we'll get into more of that as we continue down his kit. But another ability is his shield that he can place at quite a distance, actually. And the benefits of this is it's got 1,000 health, which is kind of rare for a shield, but look at that cooldown timer, how fast it's decaying, and then it goes on a big long cooldown. So what it's intended to do is for you to cross a gap and deny, let's say, a sniper out in the distance or the Zenyatta. We set it down and then we get from A to B. But what I want to advise you guys to think about is, because it's on such a short duration, also think about you don't have great damage yourself. We just talked about it, right? Hard to hit. But what you can do is set it for someone else, okay? So putting it on a ledge like this, when your soldier's got sights here, you can use the cover and maybe he pops over the top there, can't be hit by anything. So timing that for a teammate could be insane. That's going to be some really high skill ceiling plays. But otherwise, try to keep it not too in front of the enemy, because the closer it is to them on that angle, they'll be able to walk in front of, right? So for a second, he'll be able to block, but he'll be able to just sidestep it. So instead, we'd rather it be closer to us to extend off of your own cover. So if normally my cover's like this, and I can use it to jiggle peek out and be safe, we can extend the cover this way to stand, and more people of us use this angle and shoot back at the enemy. So that's how you want to use the barrier. He does have his E ability. It's possible to ground a Pharah, but you got to land it on the ground in order to hit. In theory, you can land it like on surfaces as well, but it creates that big vortex up to the sky and will be able to ground a target. In my experience, it's best, it doesn't go on walls as we can see, it's best to use it on a character like Lucio or maybe Tracer, because what the targets will do is not be able to jump anymore either. It's not just their movement abilities, they'll be tethered down to the ground. So as targets are jumping around you, it's kind of good to aim it where near you, so you know you can follow up on it, toss it down, and then that target will be set up for your easy damage to line up your headshot. So think of it like a more powerful Sojourn nade in a way, where it's going to slow down their movement and pull them to the ground and set up for easy follow-up shots. The Pummel attack is quite directional, and you'll see like the hitbox on it, it's kind of where that circle is, and the range on it isn't so big. So while you can penetrate shields with this, and it's going to be good to isolate targets behind barriers and penetrating through them, it's a little bit harder to hit than you would think. And you've kind of got to hit like almost like a Reaper-esque spread, I would say. Almost similar range in terms of effectiveness. The damage is quite chunky here, so we're going to take down this bot in 4 hits, which I would personally say isn't the fastest. And while it can cleave directly in front of you like this and hit multiple targets behind barriers, that doesn't seem to happen as often as you would think. Like a Reinhammer swinging like this, it's often to hit one target, lingering hitbox, and hit others. I feel like it's a little bit harder to do that with Ramattra's ability, because it actually shoots a projectile out. It's not really your fist that's doing the hitbox, it's the thing you're shooting out of your fist that you're actually aiming, and that projectile pierces this direction or this direction, hitting the target going behind them. But the important thing to keep in mind is that you get 600 overall health because you get a bonus of armor health. So that means you're going to be a lot more tanky going in. But because Ramattra doesn't have any movement capability, now Ramatra's got a smaller hitbox when in his Omnic form, but in this big form, yes, he has a lot more armor, but he's also easier to hit by everything, and you have a really obvious movement path. that you're going to be able to get slept or hit by tons of damage, projectiles. So don't expect to be too tanky in this form. You'll want to be actively weaving in blocks in between your punches, and you can kind of see how quickly I can whip this up, almost like a shield cancel for Reinhardt. The block ability is going to severely reduce damage from the front, and you're going to find it necessary when you're going in and brawling, and that's sort of going to be the cadence, where we set down a shield, we go into brawl, and see, I'm using my barrier here. This is going to be kind of key in my opinion. I think comboing all of that together is kind of required in order for this character to feel very good sometimes, because you might get into a shield battle with an enemy Reinhardt. He's got a shield, teammates behind it. You kind of also want your own shield in order to protect you as you start to go in. The way the devs explained it is that the shield is a means to an end to close the distance and then go in and pummel. But if you don't have that protection, you just get hit by every ability in the game and you have to block anyway. Ideally, you don't want to be doing this the whole time because you're doing no damage and generating no ult. And yes, you can tank like an Orisa can, but she's more tanky than you and has more ability to close the distance herself and take more damage and deal more damage, in my opinion. So it's a little tricky to use this character. So the thing you want to keep in mind, though, all the things I just talked about, I don't think at the moment feels incredibly strong. But what definitely is strong is his ultimate, which starts to drain enemy life force. And as long as you keep up with them, you're going to be able to fully keep it going forever, infinitely, as long as you find more targets to hit. There's a little bit of a timer of it to go off, but we'll try to min-max it here and go off on our own. Start to see it's got 3 seconds draining now too. As long as I find another target within that 3 seconds, which isn't too hard to do considering how big the radius of this is, you can kind of see how far it's going there at the extent. This is the entire objective, right? So any objective you want to be on, the enemy just cannot contest, otherwise they're going to be drained by this ultimate. Keep in mind, I'm in my Ravenous form during this as well, so I can brawl and do all that damage and block as well. So you'll want to think about his cooldown cycle kind of like this. So let's say we're fighting, we drop our shield, do my little bit of poking, maybe they come in ready to penetrate through a shield to finish something off. I've used now my transformation ability, but when I press Q, I get it again. So I'm backed up to my full health and I can go a second time. Very similar to Orisa, where she'll get an extra fortify when she ults. Same thing with Ramattra. You want to pop it as an extra burst of armor health because armor keeps you alive in Overwatch 2 quite a lot. Overall playstyle for the hero, I think his neutral game is slower than you're going to expect from other tanks, but his ult is insane. So because of that, kind of just looking for an advantage, poking and prodding when you see one, finish one off and go for it. But he's not a very easy to take space tank, and we have quite a few of those in the game that are quite forgiving in his playstyle. So if you're not careful, you might get clowned thinking you are a giga tank like all the others, but he actually has some pretty big openings to feel like he can be countered. So play mindfully and tactfully with his two forms, build up to that ultimate, and that's where you're going to carry the game the most, I think. The way he creates the most opportunity in the neutral is excellent stellar aim with his nanites in order to hit headshots, timing the shield for big interactions to block enemy big abilities or to set up your team most of the time, finding weak targets that you can go finish with your Pummel ability, and maybe most of all, the biggest difference now is a very easy to hit crowd control with the Vortex. Stop, let's see how much it's slowing Tracer, and she can't jump there either, so you know the hitbox is going to be reliably down on the floor, whether that's a Lucio or any other that is very mobile and annoying. An entire Genji blade might come at you, and you could plop this down and play inside this and be safe from it, and Genji will be tethered to the ground, not able to double jump. As far as counterpicking goes, I'd say this is his biggest counterpick ability, because it's a big AoE, and other tank stuns like this aren't as forgiving. And it's not so big, that radius, but it's big enough to hit on at least one zippy flanker style character that's on you. And if you're super skillful with it, you can even throw it out into the distance potentially and hit a far out of the sky, but good luck doing that. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to check out our upcoming videos and click the bell icon to actually get notified when they come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.